Hi friends, how are you all doing? I have a guest with me today. You all know my husband Chris. He has agreed to be my yoga model, isn't he cute, for tonight because we have a request for restorative yoga, and I couldn't think of a better gift for you to give yourself than restorative yoga, or a better gift for me to give to my husband. So speaking of gifts, you should be able to hear me better now because I am the proud new owner of a little microphone. I don't know if you can see that right there, but it should improve the quality of the sound. So I'm getting there. This little rookie videographer, whatever the right term is. We're getting there. So speaking of getting there, how you holding out? I've noticed this week has been a little more challenging than previous weeks for whatever the reason. And so this request for restorative yoga has actually come at a perfect time when I feel we all could use this opportunity of rest, to find internal peace, to perhaps surrender to some of the anguish that might be going on in your mind or around you. I also was searching for the right thing to read to you when I put you in a restorative pose, because you know I love my Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. Many of you know this book well. And as I was reviewing it, I came across a great reading on surrender, which I'm going to share, but it lined up perfectly with something that Chris and I actually had the rare gift of enjoying yesterday. We're very lucky that we live on a nice little pond out back, and there was a mama duck out there with 7 of her little babies just tootling around. But you know, even though mom looks calm and cool on the surface, she's probably under the surface got those little legs going and stressing out about keeping her babies safe. So that became my focus of what I want our intention to be for tonight, is trying to relax and surrender and find peace and calm through the help of restorative yoga. So if you don't know what restorative yoga is a much calmer, gentler form of yoga where we don't hardly move at all. As a matter of fact, we're only going to do 4 poses. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to let Chris stay in these poses all night, just, for a few moments, so I can teach you how to set up. Because part of what makes restorative yoga look successful and work is because of props, but I know that we don't all have props, yoga props. So we're going to have homemade props, if you will. So no props, no problem. So instead of a strap, I'm going to use a tie. But you could use a bathrobe belt, you could use a belt, you could use rope. Instead of my yoga blankets, I have just some towels from my bathroom. I also have just a nice little soft fluffy blanket. And then of course, pillows, and more pillows. And you all know how much I love them. Wow. So before we get started, I just want to show you how to fold to prep the one blanket for us to get ready for our first posture. So I'm just going to move this one out of the way. Just take your regular bath towel, fold it in half. And then we're going to do what I like to call a triple fold. So it's going to be 3 even folds. I'm sorry, that's out of the way. But 3 even ways, and then just fold that in half. All right, so we're going to put that right here, right at the base of Chris's tailbone. And then I'm going to do this a little closer. Fold it once, and then twice, evenly. But that actually becomes 3-part fold, okay? And then we're going to fold that again. So you've got your open edge, and then your folded edge. That's the part that you want up against your spine. So we're going to stack those like stair steps. Let me move that blanket so you can see that there. I forgot to mention, if you have any kind of essential oil. I highly recommend that you incorporate this into your practice. I chose lavender today. Obviously, we all love lavender. May I have your hand, sir? So just put a little drop in your hand. I'm going to take some too. Rub it back and forth. I wish you could smell it. So before we continue, I'm going to finish setting this up for Chris because his spine is a little longer than mine. And I don't want him to be uncomfortable because if you think about it, when we're in class and we have that bolster, it's one long, firm support. This blankets and pillows and things, they're a little soft and fluffy, so I'm just propping them up. So if there were a towel or blanket, I'm going to put it under here first to keep it more in line, and then I'm going to give him a pillow. So now he's more in line. When he lays down on that, that will be more flat. But before we finish, the last part is going to be bound angle. Let me get out of the way here. Chris is going to bring the soles of his feet together. His knees are going to flop open, and that's why I have 2 more extra pillows. I'm going to put one under one knee and the other under the other knee. And then Chris is just going to lay on back, and I'm going to help him. How's that feel, babe? Hang on, let me adjust. Is it good? Okay. So together, take a nice big inhale. Move out of the way so you can see my husband. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. So this is a beautiful way to begin a restorative yoga practice. It's a nice, gentle, supported pose. It's soft. It's supporting the body. But yet, he's still stretching. He's still getting the benefit of the stretch in the hips, the spine, the shoulders. Let's take another big inhale. And exhale as we fully surrender and let go. Every muscle can be softened and joint. Every joint in your body. Kind of trying to quiet the mind. It's really nice to do this type of a practice in the evening. But any time of the day really is wonderful. Feel your eyes releasing back into your little eye sockets. Openness in the throat and the chest. And as each moment passes, can you release a little more and become a little deeper in your relaxation with minimal effort? So for the sake of time and not having this video go on for hours, because I know Chris would enjoy it if I held him in these poses longer. The longer you can hold these poses, the better. We're just going to do a few moments between each pose. But ideally, 5 to 10 minutes per pose would be wonderful. That's a really nice treat about having these classes as videos is you can pause. Hit the pause button. Stay here as long as you like. But before we transition to the next pose, we want to make sure that we're gentle with our body when we do that. So I'm going to encourage Chris first to just start gently wiggling his fingers and toes. Take a breath. Bring your hands down by your sides and to the outsides of your knees. Gently and slowly draw those knees closer together. It's a pretty deep stretch on the hips. And then let the feet either stay flat or you can stretch them out long, whatever you would prefer to do. This is a very individual preference. Some of us like to reach the arms up and over the head as we're stretching and waking up. You want to think of it as like you've been out for a nap for a little while and you don't want to just jolt right up off the floor. You just want to take your time. So when you're ready to come out of this, bend the knees so the feet are flat. Chris is just going to gently roll towards me because I want you to see him instead of his back, and then prop himself up to come right back up to seated. Pose number 1. So pose number 2 is a supported bridge pose. Now normally, if you're familiar with that pose and that when we do that in class, we use a block. We're not going to, this is no props, no problem class, right? So I'm going to take a blanket and I'm going to fold it. Looks like Zoe wants to join our class too. And I'm just going to take it open from where it was. We only had it halfway, and I'm going to like triple fold this one once and twice. So it kind of looks like this, but flat. So it's sort of the size of our block. Obviously a lot softer than our block. The block is made of a firm foam. And if you like that firmness but don't have a block, I encourage you to find a couple books and then maybe just place an unfolded blanket on it, just so you have a little bit. You don't want it too high, because the higher, the more the arch in the back, and that's not what we're striving for. We're just simply restoring that. I'm going to keep this down for Chris's head. Zoe obviously wants to stay close. Chris is going to lay down flat on his back, bending his knees, going into bridge pose. I'm going to come over here out of the way. I can't seem to find the right place. Now, the strap is going to be needed in this. I guess I need to come back over here. I'm not used to doing this. So you're going to take your strap, or your tie as it were, and Chris is going to walk his knees and his feet more into alignment with his hips. So in other words, we're not wide and we're not close together. So right in line with those hips. And then your strap, you just tie it so that it maintains that width. So Chris doesn't have to worry about keeping his knees or his legs engaged. They kind of rest on the outside of this strap. And then, Zoe took my other prop. As is in support, as in any bridge pose, as Chris pushes his feet into the earth and he lifts his hips up off the earth, you slide this right underneath there. Now, Chris is going to have to adjust that to find the right space. We have that triangular bone right at the base of our spine. That's called your coccyx. It's literally right there at the base. That's where you want that. You don't want it in the small of the lower back, and you don't want it down in your booty. You want it right in that supportive spot. Beautiful. Arms can be by your side, or if you like that cactus arm option, you can bend at the elbows. Yep, just like that. Take a nice inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. We're going for comfort and ease. Inhale. Exhale. Feel that openness across the collarbones, the softness in the throat. Hips are lifted a little higher. The strap on the shins are keeping the legs supported so your feet don't roll out. So how often do we allow ourselves these opportunities to be at ease, to just relax, breathe. melting into that support. Feel the softness in the feet, and the knees, the hips. So again, for the sake of time, I'm going to start to bring Chris out of this pose by inviting him to gently wiggle his fingers and toes. Bring your arms down by your side. Take an inhale. Exhale. When you're ready, lift your hips up off of the support that's underneath you. Slide that blanket out from underneath you and then lower down onto the floor. You can let this drop too, step out of it. And then I'm just going to encourage Chris to just do whatever feels right with his body right now. And for Chris, that means just extending the legs out long. For some of us, it could be bringing the knees into the chest and curling up into that little ball. So you honor you. Just do it slowly. And then when you're ready, bend the knees with the feet flat onto the earth. Gently roll to the side. Come on up. How you feeling, honey?
Good. Very good.
Good. So pose number 3 is legs up the wall, but as you can see where we are set up tonight, we don't have a wall to use, but we do have a chair. So you don't have to have a wall. You don't have to have a chair. You could use your couch. You could curl up with your bum up against your couch and flip your feet up. I'm going to bring a chair over here for Chris. Now, if you use the chair and it's a hardwood chair, you can always put one of these on there. Lift, baby. Just to soften it a little bit. Chris kept that blanket under his head to support the neck, but to also keep that nice and soft. Take a nice inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. So it's always a good thing when we can elevate our feet above our heart. This gets the blood out of the legs, especially for someone like Chris who's on his feet all the time. This blood pools back down into the body, into the belly, into the organs, recycling, recirculating. And this also helps us transition into a resting mode. So of the 4 poses I'm teaching you tonight, or of any pose, this is the one pose. If you only have 10 minutes, do this pose. It is worth it. To just allow you the opportunity to rest, restore. If your eyes aren't already closed, I'd like to encourage you to close them, because sometimes when we keep our eyes open, our mind follows where the eyes go and it keeps us thinking. So you want to try to reduce the amount of activity going on in the brain right now if you can. A big help if you find your mind is bouncing around a lot is just simply place one hand on your belly and one hand on the center of your heart and just feel that breath moving in the body. and concentrate on that, and it would perhaps help redirect your thoughts. So continuing to feel the softness all around the body. Again, for the sake of time, I'm going to unfortunately bring my husband out of this pose sooner than you should, because again, 10 minutes, this pose, if it's the only thing you can make time for, this is the one. So honey, take a big inhale, wiggling fingers and toes as you exhale. Maybe the arms want to reach up and over the head to stretch as you inhale. And exhale. I'm just going to slide the chair out of the way. Chris can just take his feet down to the floor. And when he's ready, again, this is you taking your time. Bend the knees, feet flat. Gently roll to the side and prop yourself up. So the fourth pose is a supported spinal twist. So twists are wonderful for the body, wringing out toxins, wringing out anything negative that we don't need, whether they're toxic thoughts or toxic foods. It helps just kind of wring and twist it out, push it through. So I'm going to come over here. And we're going to set him up, blanket and pillow. And then, can you hand me that blanket, honey? I never took out the triple fold. I'm just simply doing it in half. And I'm stacking these two blankets just on top of each other. Honestly, it really doesn't matter, just so they're folded. But I do want the softest side up against him. Pull all of this closer. So again, we're thinking of a bolster. It's one long thing, and we're trying to make it as even as possible. Chris is going to sit with his right hip up to the support. The way he stacks his knees is entirely up to him. Lifting the spine up and twisting so hands are on either sides of the bolster, laying down, and your head is in the same direction as your knees. Yes. The spine gets a twist too when our head moves. So we start gentle and then we progressively add on. So it's this twisting action. The hips are going this way. The shoulder is coming this way. We breathe into this lung, really opening and expanding. If you're on a hardwood floor, we're actually on carpet, so it's nice and soft. But if you want extra padding, grab another blanket, grab another pillow or towel, and just put it right under your hips, right here, if you need it. So ideally, this one would be great for 5 minutes. I mean, we all have an opportunity to set a timer somehow, I would imagine, whether it's on your phone or through Alexa or some microwave timer or something. So 5 minutes, and then for one last minute with an inhale, Chris is simply going to pick his head up and turn his head in the opposite direction of his knees. That's your cue. So that's that final wringing out, that additional twist. But please be mindful of your body. How does that feel? If it's not feeling good, pick the head up, turn it back in the same direction as the knees. But if you can hold that for a minute, that's great. It's, again, another wringing out of releasing. With his next breath and inhale, Chris is going to pick the head up, come back the same direction. Then slowly come him out. He's just going to slide his hands back down to where they're right under the shoulders. Just kind of push up so you just peel yourself out of that. And then make his way over to the other side. Taking his time, of course. There's no hurry, no rush. Again, supporting on either sides of the bolster, laying down, heads in the same direction as the knees. Breathing. So the top hip, elongating this twisting into this top shoulder. Wringing out, releasing. One more big inhale. We'll pretend 5 minutes just passed. Chris is going to pick his head up with an inhale and turn in the opposite direction of his knees with an exhale. Doing just that final twist. Picking the head up, going back in the same direction as the knees. Sliding the hands back when you're ready. Push into the earth. Come back up. Let the legs just stretch out. You can even windshield wiper your feet. Just kind of let it all go. So those were the 4 poses. That's it. But of course, we're going to end with Shavasana, because I want to read that little surrender story about the ducks. So we're going to remove everything out, because I do want Chris to lay flat. I do want you to lay flat. Let the head be supported. And one last thing, we're going to take the blanket, open it up, and roll it. I like to say like a Tootsie Roll. Chris is going to bend the knees. We're just going to slide that right underneath there and lay the knees back down. It's not a lot for him, so I'm going to give him another one. See how you feel. We're all different. There you go, babe. Take a breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last one. Inhale. Exhale. So the reading is called Surrender Like a Duck. And it always starts with a saying. Beneath what I try to see is all I need. Mark Nepo goes on to write, it was years ago, but I remember it clearly. I was walking along the shore of a lake in the middle of the day, and there in the sun, a good 10 yards out, was a duck. Curled into itself. Whoops. Sorry, I lost my page. Hold on, honey. Curled into itself, asleep. With its slick, tufted head tucked into its body, it bobbed peacefully in the lapping of the water. This little scene undid me, for here was an ultimate lesson in trust. Without any intent or knowledge of itself, this little duck, asleep in the womb of the world, was a deep and wordless teacher. If only we could surrender this completely to the mystery of life, we would be carried and renewed. It was obvious that the duck would wake and swim its little pattern on the water, but this little creature's ability to let go so completely allowed its time on earth to be filled and saturated, just for a few minutes, with a depth of peace that only surrender can open us up to. That peace is always there within us. All you got to do is take a minute and breathe, and you will find it. I hope you've enjoyed this restorative class. I hope you are able to revisit it and take time in these poses and hold them longer than what I went through in this video. And I wish you a healthy, happy day. Namaste.